Hi there guys, my name's Tom Quayle. Welcome back to the Solo YouTube channel. I hope everybody's doing very well out there as ever. Now if you're new here, this is the official YouTube channel for the app Solo. And on this channel, we upload weekly tuition videos to help you get the most out of the app. So if you're interested in learning more about Solo, if you've just bought it, and you want to get the most out of it, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons below so that you're notified every time we upload new content. Now for this week's lesson, I want to concentrate on how you can practice triads with Solo. Now you can work with triads just by selecting any of the root, third and fifth bass levels within Solo. And then even if the harmony that you're being shown on screen is based around seventh chords or even more complex chords with ninths, 11ths and 13ths, Solo is only asking you to find the triad or triadic version of that particular chordal structure. And therefore, all you're doing is finding roots, thirds and fifths. Now, in this lesson, I want to show you a number of different ways that you can do that. These are going to be specific to the guitar, but of course you could do this on any chordal-based instrument, as I say. So let's check out how I've got Solo set up. I've selected here the root, third and fifth levels. So Solo starts off with single chord tones, then two chord tones, then we've got our three chord tones, and there's two levels that we're interested in here. We've got root, third and fifth, and root, third and fifth random inversions. Now we'll come back to the random inversions later. Let's just select root, third and fifth. And this is going to allow us to work just with triads, so no sevenths at all. Then what we need to do is select a set of chord changes. Now in this instance, I've come in and I've selected the wonderful tune Falling Grace by Steve Swallow. It's one of my favorite tunes. The reason I've picked this tune is because it's got quite classical-esque Bach-like harmony in it, which is really good fun for practicing your triads. And what I'm going to use this for is for practicing different inversions and voice leading my triads on the fretboard. So when I hit Start Changes Workout, there is the first chord, A flat major 7. Now, of course, that's not a triad, that's a seventh chord. But for our purposes, this doesn't matter because Solo is asking us underneath to find the root, the third and the fifth. Now, there's a number of different ways that you could work on the guitar and, of course, on the piano if you wanted to practice learning your triad inversions. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to pick a string set. Okay, so a string set would be basically, in this case, because we've got a triad, 3 strings either close together or spread apart, depending on whether we're going to be doing closed voice triads or open voice triads. So a closed voice triad is where all 3 notes are on adjacent strings, so there's no big gaps between the intervals. An open voice triad is where we would have a gap. So for instance, this version of a C major triad would have the root, we're skipping over the third on the A string, then we have the fifth on the D string, and then we have the third on the G string. And in this case, we're skipping out the third on the A string, and that gives us a more organic, open kind of sound to our triad, hence the term open triad. So in this case, I'm going to be using closed triads, and just as an example here, I'm going to be working on the A, D, and G strings. So that's going to be my string set that I'm going to find all of these triads on. And my job is to find and voice lead efficiently through these triads. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. So I was asking for A flat major 7, the root, the third, and the fifth. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find a starting position. And in this case, I'm going to start with a second inversion A flat major triad on the A, D and G strings. Solo is asking for root, third and fifth, and my job is to play the intervallic functions within this triad shape in the specific order that Solo is asking for them. So in this case, that means I'm going to play the A flat here, the 1, then the 3 is above, and then the 5 is below the A flat root notes. So I've got this triad shape. Again, it's just a basic second inversion triad shape. Now Solo has moved on to D7 flat 9. Now in this case, again, is not a triad of course, but Solo is asking for the root, the third and the fifth, which is the triad version of that chord. So it's asking for D, the root note, and then D's third and D's fifth. Now in this case, my job is to find the nearest inversion of a D triad, a D major triad, and voice lead through that and then play the intervallic functions that Solo is asking for in the order that Solo has got them on the screen. So here is my A flat major triad. Well, I can find a D major triad. The nearest one would be a root position D major triad on the same string set. And in that case, this would give us the root note, or the 1 on the A string. The third would be on the D string. And then the fifth would be on the G string. Notice what I'm doing here is I'm basically playing these or fingering them as triads or as chords. I'm not playing anything I'm not playing two notes on the same string, for instance. I could have played that D triad like this, which would have given me the 1 on the A string, the 3 on the D string, and the 5 on the D string as well. But I want to be able to finger these as chords, okay, as little triadic structures that I can play polyphonically on my guitar. So therefore I don't want more than one note on a string. So I'm trying to voice lead these in such a way that I get them as chords that I could play if I was comping or if I was playing a little chordal structure within a solo that I was playing or improvising. So now it's asking for G minor 7. So here was my D major triad. So I've got the 1, the 3, and the 5. The nearest G minor triad, and the cool thing about solo, we've mentioned this so many times now, you can see it's just sat there waiting for me to find these notes. And if I play the wrong notes, it's not going to move on. So I've got all the time in the world. It might take me a minute and a half to figure out where this next G minor triad is, the nearest one. But then I've got to play each of those intervallic functions in the order that solo's asked them for. So I need to know where the intervals are. I can't just rely on my knowledge of a stock shape. I have to actually think about where those intervallic functions are within the chord. And if it takes me, as I say, a minute and a half to get to this point, that's totally fine. Solo's going to wait. So in this instance, my nearest G minor triad is a second inversion G minor triad with the 5th, the root, and the flat 3. So I'm going to play those notes in the order solo's asking for them. So the root, that would be on the D string. Then the flat 3 would be on the G string. And then the 5 would be on the A string. Now it's asking for an F minor triad. Now I've got a couple of options here. I could move this shape down 2 frets, that would be fairly efficient. Or I could go for a root position F minor triad, which in this case is what I'm going to do. There isn't a correct answer here as to which one you absolutely should do. You should really explore both. In this case, I'm going to do this F minor triad. So 1 on the A string, flat 3 on the D string, and 5 on the G. Now it's asking for a B flat major triad. In this case, I'm going to go up and do a second inversion B flat major triad here. Okay, so it would be 1 on the D string, 3 on the G, and then 5 on the A. Now it's asking for an E flat major triad. Again, I've got a couple of options. I could come back down to this root position E flat major triad, or I could come up and do a first inversion, which is what I'm going to do here. So I have my E flat on the G string, then the 3 on the A, then the 5 on the D string. Now D7, in this case it's going to ask for the 1, the 3 and the 5, or just a D triad. The most efficient way to voice this is just to come down a semitone. So I've got 1 on the G string, 3 on the A string, and 5 on the D string, sorry, brain failure. Now it's asking for a G minor triad. The nearest one is a root position. Hopefully you guys are getting the idea. 1, flat 3, 5. Again, making sure that I'm playing triad structures that I could play as chordal structures. I could actually play these through as chordal structures if I wanted to. Now at any point you can actually play them as a chordal structure. So this C7 here, it wants the 1, the 3 and the 5. The nearest 1, 3 and 5 here would be a second inversion C major triad. So that would be the 1 would be on the D string, the 3 would be on the G, and the 5 would be on the A string. And of course I can play it as a triad and it's picked up the first note. Okay, but if I really want solo to recognize each of the notes, because it's designed to pick up monophonic sounds or individual notes, I need to play them as individual sounds. But I can still play the fingering, just make sure that you're playing each note individually. Again, keep working through, so on and so forth. So now I've got an F sharp minor 7 flat 5, so I'm going to play the F sharp here. Then I'm going to play the flat 3 on the A string, and then the flat 5 on the D string. That's the kind of thing like a diminished triad like that might throw a few people off, so you could work through specific types of chord. So when you've done this, you could come in and say, okay, now I'm going to work on just my major triads. So you could select major 7 chords, and that would give you all your major triads, okay? All through the cycle of fifths, through all 12 keys. You could work on your minor triads. Again, just working through in that way. You could come in and you could say, okay, I'm going to work on 2 5 1s, for example. So that's one way of working, where you're choosing the inversion and you're voice leading through the chord progression. That's quite a complex thing to do, and if you're a beginner, that's going to be very, very difficult. Another way you could work is you could use the random inversions level. So if I go into the level selection screen here, in my 3 chord tones, I can select root, third and fifth, and then in brackets, random inversions. Now if I choose a string set again, let's go for the A, D and G string set again. The reason I'm picking that string set is because I'm tuned slightly differently to you guys, but those strings are the same as standard tuning, so you're not going to be fooled by any of the shapes I'm playing. Let's start the workout again, but in this case what I'm going to do is I'm going to select major 7 chords, all 12 keys. This is going to cycle through all of my major triads. And solo is going to tell me which inversion to play. So in this case it wants an A triad based off an A major 7 chord, and it's saying third, fifth, 1. It wants those notes in that order, and that's a particular inversion. That's a first inversion A major triad, because the third is the lowest note in that voicing. So what I'm going to do is on this particular string set, I'm going to find an A major voicing where the third is the lowest note in the chord, and then play the notes in the order that solo wants me to play them. In this case, that would be, here's the third at the 4th fret of the A string, sorry. I'm visualizing from this A here at the lowest E string, and I'm going to play 3, 5, 1. So that's this triad shape here, okay, first inversion. Now solo is asking for a D major triad, but it's asking for a second inversion D major triad because the 5th is now in the bass. So my job is to figure out on this string set, where do I play a second inversion D major triad, and it would be all the way up here. So we're not voice leading in this case, we're playing the specific triad solo is asking for. So now I've got the 5, the 1, and the 3, played in the order that solo is asking for. Now it wants a root position G major triad, that would be here, so 1, 3, 5. And again, I'm playing these in such a way that the shape that I'm playing is actually a triad chord. I've got 1 note per string. I'm not doubling up any notes on a particular string. I'm playing it as like a melody. I'm envisaging that I would play these as a chord, but of course I have to play the notes individually in order that solo is recognizing what I'm playing. Okay, now it wants a second inversion C major triad, again because the 5th is in the bass. That would be here on this string set, so 5, 1, 3. Now a root position F major triad, 1, 3, 5. And now a second inversion B flat major triad, so 5, 1, 3, so on and so forth. Same thing for E flat. Now, of course, I could now come in and I could say, all right, solo wants me to play these different inversions, but I'm going to play them as open triads, and I'm going to do everything on the E, D, and G strings. Okay, again, I'm just avoiding my top 2 strings because I'm in a different tuning to you guys. So same exercise here. On that string set, E, D, and G, I'm going to have to play an open triad that fits the inversion that solo is asking for. So here it's asking for a first inversion A major triad. Now my intervals are going to be slightly out of order here because they don't occur in the chord in the same order as solo is asking for, but your job is to find the inversion with the lowest, with the first note as the bass note, if you like, or the lowest note in the chord. So in this case, the 3. So that would be this chord here. It's a first inversion A major triad. And I'm going to play the 3, then the 5, then the 1. Okay. Now it's asking for a root position D major triad, which I'm going to play like this. So 1, 3, 5. Now a root position G major triad, which you could play like this. 1, 3, 5. Now a first inversion C major triad, which I'm going to have to play up here, which would be 3, 5, 1. Now a second inversion F major triad, so that would be here. Now again, you can see if I get this wrong, solo's not going to pick it up, so you can tell if you're going in the right direction here. So 5, 1, 3, and then it wants a first inversion B flat major triad, so 3, 5, 1, so on and so forth. So this is actually a really great way of working with solo with any of the chord progressions and developing your ability to play triads in 2 ways. One with voice leading, and then the other one where solo tells you which inversion to play based on the first note within the intervallic functions within solo. So if it says 3, it's a, if it says 1, it's a root position triad. If it says 3, it's a first inversion. If it says 5 is the first note, it's a second inversion. And then you can find the other notes within your chord voicing and play them. Again, the only things to remember are that you have to play each of the notes individually rather than as a chord. But of course, at any point, if you want to hear a reference, you can totally do that and play the chord as a chord, so you've got that in your ears. All right, guys, so that is it for this lesson. Hopefully that gives you some ideas of how you can practice triads and kind of more chordal stuff within solo. If you've got any questions at all, make sure that you post those below. And of course, you can go into the support section of the app and send us an email directly. And we will, of course, do our best to respond to you as quickly as possible. If you've got any requests for any tuition videos with solo, again, be sure to leave those below. And of course, as I mentioned at the beginning, hit the like and subscribe buttons and share this video with anybody that you think might be interested. And of course, as is always important with YouTube, hit the bell notification icon and you'll be notified every time we upload a new video. All right, guys, good luck with your practice. I hope you found this enjoyable and useful, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.